Oh hi, welcome back to another episode of Black Dot Miniatures and Paints. I'm Kevin. Today we are bringing you a Primaris Space Wolves Intercessor from the Start Collecting Space Wolves Primaris box. I picked this up after I got done being paid for a commission to bolster my army a little bit more. So in this video I'm going to show you how I painted them and how I'm going to have the entire army schemed. So we started off with Vallejo Black Primer, and then we come over with a nice dark blue. I like Nautilus Blue from Minitaire, but you could also use McCrag Blue or Cantor Blue from GW. Just thin it down through the airbrush and give them an all-over coat. So for this army, we're going to try things a little bit different. We're trying Liquitex inks. So we're going to come through with indigo and white ink 1:1. And all we're going to do is progressively get a little bit whiter and whiter with the ink ratio. Here we are 2:1. As we get brighter and brighter, we're focusing more of a top down. The first 1:1 was a little bit less controlled and more all over to mimic the rust gray. Then we went to the 2:1 where we start doing the zenithal highlight. Here we are on a 3:1. We're just again working the spots that light's going to hit, and we want to create hot spots on the model where the light's going to show the brightest. Finally, we're going to go to a 4:1, which is dang near just pure white. It had a tinge of blue to it, and that just really finishes everything off, makes everything pop. It actually turns out really great. The only thing I've come to find with inks is that they can be a little thin, so make sure they get proper coating. Next we're coming through with XV88, and we're just going ahead and doing all his little leather pouches, and we're also going to lay a base layer down on his shoulder pads. The left one is going to be yellow and the right one is going to be red and black. This will give it a good color to start transitioning off of when we start laying down the yellow especially. So now on to Abadon Black. We're going to go ahead and do the bolter for his rifle, and we're also going to get all of his creases, the soft areas in between the panels of the power armor. And while you're at it, make sure you lay down black on top of anything you're going to paint silver later. It works very well to have a black undercoat under silver to make sure it actually pops and looks correct. If you have a blue under there, it just doesn't turn out the same. Alright, so now we're on to Mephiston Red, and we're just going over the left shoulder pad with this color. If it is the brown like we laid down, it makes it a lot easier for it to get to a nice solid red color. If you have the blue underneath, it can be a little bit splotchy looking, so to avoid that, we're just laying the brown down beforehand. So you'll see this especially on yellow colors that don't have the same pigment ratio. That's why we did this work before. Averland Sunset's a very dark yellow to begin with, so if we start with a brown undercoat, it definitely takes it to the next stage a lot quicker instead of having to do a million layers. Alright, so now we're on to the metal bits. We're using Lead Belcher here. You can use your favorite silver, it doesn't really matter. I would go with the darker one personally, but it's all about personal opinion with this. So we're just going through hitting all the bits on his gun. We're hitting the barrel, the gas tube, the sights, bullets on the bandolier, and then any of the power pack items, you know, the vents on it and the top area. So just take your time with this. There are a few details that can be hidden, so if you take your time, you'll be able to get it in one pass rather than having to switch back to the paint and try again. So the next step for this model is to go ahead and glaze up a transition on the shoulder pad for the red side. We're just coming through with a glaze of Evil Sun Scarlet, really thin down, and we're just working smaller and smaller proportions towards the top to try and give it a nice subtle transition. So now we're coming through and just sketching in his pack marking on his left shoulder pad with the Abadon Black. All we're doing here is taking a nice tip on a nice brush, pulling the brush towards our body so we're not going to be as subject to wiggling with our wrist, and sketching this in. From there, all you're going to do is take your brush, color inside the lines, expand that area out until you get to a safe zone. From there, you are home free. So just go through, do this way, and if you like it, cool. If you don't, you can always start back over. It's not a big deal. So since we have the Abadon Black out anyway, we're going to go ahead and just color in the wolf on his right shoulder pad. Not high stress here, it's raised above the edge of it. If it was smooth, I'd say use a decal, it'd be a lot safer, but I think we do end up making a very good effect on this later down the road. Just take your time, be careful, because you are working over yellow and that can be stressful as hell. So with how temperamental yellow can be, I did not want to glaze up like I did the other shoulder pad. All we did was mix Yriel Yellow and Ushabti Bone 1-to-1, and we just cut in some little free highlights going up and down on the shoulder pad. It really adds a great effect. Alright, on to everybody's worst nightmare about this. We're doing some edge highlighting, and we're also picking out some of the gray on the wolf here on his right shoulder pad. All we're doing with the shoulder pad is hitting some of the high points on it to make it just have a little bit of definition and detail to it. We don't want just a black wolf over a yellow shoulder pad. It's not going to do the effect we want it to. It's not going to stand out. We're also going to go through and edge highlight the heck out of this dude. We edged highlight about every damn edge on this thing. Wasn't able to show it to you because it is difficult to get it in the right position to pull the brush the right way so it doesn't look like hot garbage, but it was well worth the effort. I definitely recommend it. I know it sucks, I'm sorry, but it really does add a better look to the finished product. Okay, now we're going to hit him with some Retributer Armour after all that edge highlighting. It was awful, we got past it, we made it team. So, we're just hitting the Aquila on his chest, we're hitting the little gold doodad on his rifle, and calling that done. We'll come back, shade it, highlight it, but that's it for the base steps. And here we're coming in with the Zandri Dust and XV88 1-to-1. We're picking out some of the rage points on the Purity Seal here. We're also going to go ahead and edge highlight the pouches on the back of his armor. And we're also going to go ahead and do some of where the light would fall highlights on the sling to the gun. Then we come through with Zandri Dust. We're again just working smaller areas. Whenever you're trying to create these light effects, just start with a mixed color, then go to a smaller portion of the mixed color and go to the lighter color of the two. On the pouches, I started to do that, didn't really like the way it turned out, so we went to a scratchy kind of very light tan looking pouch. And then same thing we did before on the Purity Seals, we just created a little bit higher points for it to go to. Finally, we went on to Ushabti Bone and just hit the tippy tops and the edge highlights of all of the edges there. We also, again, did the scratchy stuff on the pouches on his back, and we also hit a littler area on the sling to his gun. So we're going to go ahead and start our washes here. We're coming through first with Agrax Earthshade. Going from a really bright color of Ushabti Bone to an XV88, we definitely need to filter over all of it. So hit it with that, it'll make it look good. Next we're going to come through with the known oil. We're just hitting the metal bits. This is just to create the contrast from the bright points to the low points. No big deal at all. Same stuff you're used to all the time. So now we're on to Runefang Steel. All we're doing here is just picking out the edge highlights for the metal bits and then where we want it to be a little bit more accentuated with the transition of the metal colors. We're also hitting this grenade, the power packs, all the same basic stuff, and then where the light's going to hit the brightest on the barrels of the gun and the gas tubes and stuff like that. The final wash we're going to use on this model is just Reikland Fleshshade, your basic gold wash. We want to go ahead and create a little bit more contrast on the Retributer Armour, so just hit it with that, give it a little bit of time to dry, and then we'll come through and highlight it back up. So to start the highlighting process on the gold, we come through with Liberator Gold. All we're trying to do here is hit the tops of the individual feathers on the Aquila. Again, having a cooperative brush and having a nice tip on it any given day helps out tremendously. So just take your time, work around the model. It can be difficult due to positioning, but you'll get there. So the final highlight for this model is just a mix of Liberator Gold and Runefang Steel 1-to-1. All I'm doing here is hitting towards the end of the individual feathers that I hit before. I want to create a look to where it goes dark in the center except for the skull, and then gets brighter as it works out towards the end of the feather. It just creates a good look. There's no science behind why the light would hit that way. I just think it looks great. So try this, check it out for yourself. I think you'll like it. Alright guys and gals, so here is our finished product. I think it looks fantastic. I am super excited to see the way this dude turned out. It's my first time using the inks to try and create this effect. I think I would like it to be a little bit brighter personally, but that's just me. It still turned out very Space Wolfy, very blue. So I think Russ would be proud. I think everybody should try these inks out. Again, guys, I say it week after week. I appreciate y'all for coming and checking me out. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe. If you really like it, you find something useful, share it to a buddy that's starting a Space Wolves army. Maybe they can find something they can use here. But as always, this has been Kevin with Black Dot Miniatures and Paints. Thanks for checking me out, and bye for now.